Are you trying to get people who are developing software to use more agile and lean methods for doing so? But it seems like it's really hard to get people to break out of the mindset that they're stuck in. Well, stay tuned, because today we're going to talk about how to discover the mindset for lean software development. Hi, I'm Jamie Edwards, and I help software development professionals and software companies to do a better job releasing their software, understanding what it is that their customers actually want, and having an environment where people can work and be as creative and innovative as possible. Today we're going to talk about overcoming attachment so that you can help people have the right mindset when they go to develop software and encourage people to adopt some more modern development processes that'll really help your company and team innovate and build winning software products. Now, today's video is not going to be talking so much about the software development process when we do agile and lean software development. I've actually covered that quite a bit in my prior videos, and there's a lot of other resources online where you can find information about that. Today, I'd like to talk instead about the actual mindset that people need to have, including yourself and your team, to actually successfully go about developing software in a lean or agile fashion. As you may have heard me talk about before, more traditional management styles, they want predictability. They want to know how much things are going to cost to make and exactly what they're going to get at the end. I've talked, however, in many other videos on this channel, you can go back especially and watch one that I did on lean software development, how a company that's trying to innovate and actually be disruptive in their market and bring really valuable new products to their customers can't, unfortunately, go about measuring performance of a company based on how far along a project you are and how much money you've made. I talked about this whole concept in another video on my YouTube channel or the SoundCloud podcast you can listen to as well, A/Bing software development. And this is a little different than just A/Bing, a headline. Digital marketers do this a lot when they want to see how good their sales copy, for example, is resonating with their customer to sell a digital product. But we're actually talking here about A/Bing software development to find out, is the development that we're doing actually reaching positive outcomes for the business? So go back and watch that video if that concept is new to you. Now, assuming you've convinced people that lean software development or agile software development or DevOps or continuous delivery or any of these terms of these more modern development processes that I talk about on this channel and many of you have heard about, assuming you want to actually get your company to do this and you've already communicated it, you're going to run into, unfortunately, some barriers, I believe, very quickly with people's personalities and their emotions that make it much more challenging. And I hope this video today gives you some tools and some ideas that you can think about that might help you overcome these situations so that you can actually get people to do what they need to just move forward and produce really great software products. One of the key things I've talked about on my YouTube channel in another video is how uncertainty tends to affect people. If we're going to actually let the customer decide what's in our product and we're going to release software potentially multiple times per day, we're going to have an increased set of feedback coming in from our customer. Also, when we have subject matter experts or product managers or people that really know their product very well and they're kind of close to it and it's become somewhat of their baby, putting an idea in front of their customer and finding out that that may not be the best idea can create a lot of anxiety for people. So how do we actually go about helping teams and people deal with this uncertainty so we can actually go about developing software in a truly lean or agile fashion? If you think back to when you were a child, if you celebrate Christmas, for example, or your birthday, many people ask for a certain gift that they want. And when you're a child, if it's a gift that you really wanted, you may be really excited about it and attached about that gift. And for the months that lead up to your birthday or up to Christmas, there's this feeling of, I sure hope I get it. I sure hope I get it. And if that day comes and you don't get that gift or that outcome or that possession you wanted, many children, you've seen them do this, and I've done this when I was a kid and many people did, they'll get upset. They'll throw a fit. They'll behave really irrationally because they didn't get what they wanted and they were attached to that outcome. What I want to talk about today, and really is the focus of this video, is how does attachment within organizations affect how people become attached to their own ideas and outcomes, and how can we actually have some simple strategies in place that you can begin to use and you can begin to help others on your teams use, so that as you're developing software and uncertain outcomes are a surefire bet, people work together without getting upset at each other, and there aren't behavioral things that we do as a reaction simply because something happened that we couldn't predict. Going back to that story I just talked about, as an adult, we can often become attached to an outcome. I've become attached to, for example, a promotion maybe that I wanted, or maybe a raise that you wanted in your job, or an opportunity to work with some technology or be on a project that you thought was really exciting. Well, unfortunately, as we all know, life doesn't always turn out the way we want it to. And the more comfortable we can become as people with trying things and not being able to guarantee that the outcome is going to be something that we want, the more comfortable we're going to be taking risks, which is exactly what's needed to innovate in today's market with software. So if we know people need to be more comfortable with uncertainty and they need to be less attached to outcomes, what are some strategies that we can use ourselves as well as other people to help us be less attached and deal with uncertainty when we go about agile software development and lean software development and things like this? This starts really with letting ourselves meditate on or think about the possibility that things may turn out different than how we're planning. Now, in corporate America, most people don't want to do this. They're really uncomfortable. It's all about planning for the outcomes and telling each other what we're going to do and what's going to happen. So the concept of explicitly sitting down and thinking about this goal that I have, or this task that I'm about to accomplish, or this feature that I'm going to put in front of the customer, I'm going to think about the possibility that what I planned may not work out. Now, once you do this, you can also jump, however, to another negative behavior that's sort of a consequence of a defense mechanism, and that is called catastrophizing. What you may do is, and I've done this many times in my life outside of software development as well, is immediately jump to the worst possible outcome. So for example, if the company or the team invested in a feature that cost $10,000 to build, $30,000 to build, and it's just one change in the set of a whole bunch of features that we're building for our customer. The catastrophizing way of thinking about it would be, you know what, I'm just going to prepare myself that we're going to put this feature out there and it's going to fail. So I'm going to make it much smaller so that if it does fail, there's not as much that goes wrong. Now that's actually potentially a good thing, because we do want to have teams invest in less at one time when doing lean software development. I've talked about this in other videos and other episodes on my podcast. However, if you get into this mindset regularly, you become really negative and you actually can create more anxiety and uncertainty for yourself simply by focusing yourself on the worst possible outcome. So I caution you to beware of that as you begin to start to focus on and meditate on and think about the possibility of the work that the team's doing having an uncertain outcome. Now, another thing that you may need to do or help others with if you're going to adopt the lean mindset for software development is to overcome resentment over past failures. If the team has had work that they've tried to do in the past that's failed, and we're now asking people to try that method again, or perhaps a vendor did some work with our company that we weren't happy with in the past, and we're being asked to work with them again. If we hold on to resentment, we're actually becoming attached to a negative outcome. We're expecting that something bad is going to happen. And this is very similar to catastrophizing. To get over these resentments, you may want to look into what's known as limiting beliefs. These are basically things that we think are true, but we've really never challenged them fully. Sometimes there may have been a comment that somebody made to us off the cuff as we were growing up, or maybe on one of our software projects, someone made a statement about our skills. And we might hold on to that and feel like that's true, but it's simply not. So challenging limiting beliefs that you may have about yourself, your skills, your team's skills, maybe challenging things like the ability for the company to do monthly or subscription-based budgeting instead of project percent complete budgeting, which I've talked about in other videos. That might be something you may want to start to challenge and really think about, is this true? Is this something we really can't change? Because having a clear picture of what really is limiting you and what's not limiting you is extremely important if you're going to get comfortable with uncertainty and taking risks. Now, one of the things that's inevitably going to happen when people start to take more risks is, in most companies, anyone who makes a decision that has a financial outcome or a significant outcome in customer perception or something like that, usually is held accountable if that decision turns out to not have went the way that we hoped. So what that can tend to do, however, is cause us as people or our managers or other people on software teams to put our identity and our self-worth in the decisions that we make. Meaning, if I make a decision about, let's say, the software architecture or a feature that the team's going to build, and that turns out to be a quote-unquote bad decision, I can actually take that personally and actually feel like I'm worth less as a person because I made a bad decision. Unfortunately, that's a really negative way to look at yourself and to look at other people. We need to actually allow people to feel safe that making mistakes is part of a learning, and encourage people to take risks and make mistakes if a company wants to innovate and actually do things that nobody's ever done in the market before. Another one of the things we can do to be more comfortable with outcomes being different than what we might be able to predict is to practice delayed gratification. This is really just waiting longer to get something that we want. It might be as simple as just waiting to get your second cup of coffee in the morning a little bit longer, or putting off buying a possession you're thinking about. Now, this might sound a little bit silly at first, but you'd be surprised how many people are still really attached to having something as soon as they can possibly get it. And why part of the reason why you might be running into resistance at your company when trying to get agile or lean software development methods in place has nothing to do with people not understanding the details. It has more to do with them being uncomfortable with uncertainty. And this is why I'm talking about this in this video today. As you begin practicing these techniques today, one other thing you really will need to begin to practice more, and I work on this all the time, is to allow other people to experience resentment or frustration. So when a team's about to start embarking on doing lean software development or agile software development, and they're putting ideas in front of their customers that have an uncertain outcome, and we want to practice detaching from that outcome, we're practicing it. People are going to fall back into the behavior they're used to, and so people are going to get angry, uncomfortable. They may blame you for outcomes. Now, none of that's fair, and certainly I don't like experiencing that any more than the next person. But one of the things that you personally can do on your team is start to think about preparing yourself for the fact that some of the decisions your coworkers may make may actually frustrate or upset you a little bit if you were attached to the outcome. And you may see them behave frustrated or in an upset sort of behavioral fashion if they became attached to an outcome that didn't happen. Really, this is just as simple as saying, try to set the expectations with the people that you're working with and remind people all the time that it's okay that we're learning. It's okay that we're not 100% comfortable with dealing with uncertainty and detaching from outcomes, but that we're going to work on it as a team and we're going to continue to try to make progress no matter what, because that's how the company needs to behave and that's how people need to start to work together if the company is truly going to become an agile, lean, and innovative type of an organization. And the last thing that you can practice when it comes to dealing with detaching and not becoming so attached to the outcome of circumstances is to practice forgiveness when people make a decision that has a negative outcome. Now, this may sound a little silly that I'm asking you to practice forgiveness, But this is a real thing, and being able to actually say to another person, you know what, that outcome wasn't what we were hoping for, but it's okay. You tried your best. Let's try something different, is critical. If that's not the default way that people react to each other when an outcome happens that the business isn't happy with, then people won't take risks. They won't be comfortable with uncertainty. They will become very attached to the outcome, and much of the software development process and how the business runs and how performance is measured will fall back into measurement theater and away from innovation and back into command and control and tight measurement of what people think will predict the future. And once you start doing that, say goodbye to agile and lean software development, because at that point it's simply process ceremony, and there's not really anything about the process that's actually helping lead the company and the team and the product in the direction that's going to make the most profit for the company, because that's probably some things that only your customer can tell you. So what do you think? Have you tried to deal with helping people adopt the mindset to do agile software development? Give me a thumbs up below. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. We're going to talk a lot more, as I have before on this YouTube channel and in the SoundCloud podcasts, about lean software development and about how people can be more healthy about how they expect things from each other, how they communicate, the tools and technologies we use, and everything that's necessary so that a modern software development team that you work on can be a place where people do their best work. So until next time, thanks.